I had expected dust, rust, maybe a few blinking panels and the faint hum of something long dead. That's what you get when you buy an abandoned Galactic cruiser at an auction nobody attended. No bids, no excitement. Just the echoing emptiness of a vessel forgotten by time, drifting in the warehouse of the Interstellar Asset Exchange like a relic from a bygone era. But when the boarding ramp lowered beneath my feet, I realized I had bought far more than a derelict ship. The hull smelled of ozone and memory, a faint metallic tang that clung to the air like a ghost. The bridge was massive, far larger than any human cruiser I'd ever seen, its consoles alive with dormant potential, screens flickering faintly as if testing for life. At first, I thought the ship was merely waiting for someone to wake it, but then I saw the first hint that this was no ordinary vessel. A shadow moved. Not a crew member, not a hologram, but something organic, or at least semi-organic. It slithered across the walls, pulsating faintly with a bioluminescent glow. I froze. The manuals had never mentioned alien life forms being integrated into ship systems, let alone thriving silently inside. I walked forward cautiously, every step echoing on the hollow metal floor. The deeper I went, the stranger it became. Hallways twisted at impossible angles, not with architectural error, but with deliberate design. Gravity seemed to bend subtly, pulling me in directions that made no sense. I realized that the ship didn't just travel through space, it bent it around itself, folding dimensions in a way that would make most physics textbooks cry. And then I found the cargo hold. At first, it appeared empty, but the sensors screamed otherwise. Hundreds of small, contained energy signatures hummed softly, each one a perfect miniature of a living ecosystem. Some were forests, others oceans. Even a few seemed to replicate entire planetary systems on a scale that was almost sacrilegious. It was as if the previous owner had been collecting worlds, not wealth, gathering the essence of life itself and stashing it inside a floating fortress. A console lit up with a soft chime. Letters formed across the screen in a language I didn't recognize at first. Then, inexplicably, I understood. Not as words, not as translation, but as thought. A voice in my mind, calm yet infinitely aware. Welcome, inheritor. You were chosen because the galaxy has forgotten what should never be forgotten. I staggered back. My pulse raced. The auction had been a trap of sorts, though I didn't yet understand whose design it was. Every instinct screamed to run, to abandon this ship and its secrets. But curiosity, an almost human, almost reckless curiosity, pulled me forward. The next room revealed what I can only describe as the bridge proper. Vast, cathedral-like in scale, it was lined with monitors displaying the entirety of known space, flickering with anomalies and readings I'd never dreamed existed. Planets blinked in and out of existence, stars warped into shapes that violated everything I'd learned in school. And floating above the main console, suspended without visible support, was a sphere of light, pulsing softly. It spoke, not in words, but in intention. Images and feelings flooded my mind simultaneously. Wars waged across galaxies. Empires rose and fell in the blink of a single rotation of the sphere. Entire species had vanished, some for their own hubris, others for reasons beyond comprehension. And in all of it, the ship remained, a silent guardian, collecting fragments of life, history, and civilization. I realized then that this was no ordinary galactic cruiser. This was a repository of the galaxy itself, a sentient vessel curated over millennia by hands and minds I couldn't hope to trace. And it had chosen me. The ship began to hum, low and resonant, as if testing my will, my understanding. The shadow from before returned, moving closer, But this time it spoke. Or rather, its form became language. It unfolded in intricate patterns, shapes that carried meaning and history. I understood that this being had been part of the ship's operations, perhaps its caretaker or guardian, and now it was assessing me. "You hold the potential," the voice or thought continued. "But potential alone is fragile. Knowledge must be tempered with wisdom. Will you claim what has been left to you, or will you falter as others have?" Every instinct in me screamed that the consequences of failure were not just personal, they were universal. The hum of the ship deepened, vibrating in my bones. Lights danced along the walls, tracing paths that were not corridors, but threads of space-time itself. The ship wasn't just alive, it was shaping reality around me, evaluating me, offering me a choice that felt impossible, yet inevitable. And then the doors to the lower chambers opened on their own. A faint golden light spilled upward, revealing stairways, or perhaps pathways, that descended far beyond the ship's apparent structure. I could hear something in the depths. Not sound as we know it, but a resonance, a heartbeat, a consciousness. It was calling me. Every rational thought screamed to stop, to retreat, to abandon the prize I'd thought was mine. But every part of me, the part that dreamed, that wondered, that hungered for discovery, urged me onward. I stepped into the light, leaving behind the bridge, leaving behind the known, and entering a part of the ship that defied explanation, reality, and reason itself. And what I found inside? I descended into the golden light, and the air shifted immediately. It was warmer, heavier, as if saturated with the weight of centuries. The walls of the corridor, if they could be called walls, pulsed gently, expanding and contracting like living tissue. Each step I took resonated, echoing, not as sound, but as a vibration in my bones, sinking me, testing me. The shadow creature from before floated ahead, guiding without leading, shifting its form into patterns I could feel more than see. It was showing me the ship's heart. The chamber opened into a vast atrium, impossibly large, impossibly empty, or perhaps full in ways my mind struggled to comprehend. Suspended in the center was a sphere larger than any I had ever seen in person. Its surface a fluid mosaic of light and color that rippled like a star in motion. As I approached, the patterns rearranged themselves, showing images of entire civilizations rising and falling, of planets being born and dying, of fleets clashing and empires dissolving into nothing. Each frame of this cosmic tapestry was alive, as if time itself were compressed and held in the sphere's pulse. The voice, or whatever the ship used to communicate, filled my mind again. These are fragments of existence. We preserve them. We observe. We learn. And now you must decide whether to join this cycle or remain in the ignorance you have known. I felt the weight of it. To step closer, to accept what the ship offered, was to take responsibility for knowledge and power beyond anything humanity had ever touched. And yet, an instinct inside me, one that had drawn me to the auction in the first place, whispered that I could not turn back. Curiosity, reckless but relentless, had already carried me this far. As I circled the sphere, the light around me shifted, forming pathways of golden energy that arced into unknown chambers below. The ship seemed to react to my thoughts, aligning its internal geometry with my movement, bending space subtly so that I felt drawn to a core I could not yet see. Shadows twisted along the walls, forming fleeting visions of other beings, humans, alien life, and creatures I could not categorize, each one staring, judging, acknowledging me. The feeling was overwhelming.
I realized then that the ship did not merely collect life, it remembered it. It archived experiences, consciousness, emotions, and intent. Every action, every decision, every civilization that had crossed its path existed here, woven into a tapestry of knowledge. A door, or perhaps a membrane of light, opened ahead, revealing a staircase that defied gravity. It spiraled downward, but also outward, folding back upon itself like a Mobius strip made tangible. I could sense presence below. Not the shadow, not the sphere, but something different, something intelligent, ancient, and aware. Every instinct screamed that this was the ship's final lair, the point where the observation became interaction, where the guardian, or perhaps the ship itself, revealed its ultimate secret. I stepped onto the staircase, and the air around me thickened with energy. Holographic projections emerged from the floor and walls, displaying constellations I had never seen, star systems in impossible arrangements, and civilizations I had only read about in myths. The shadow guided me silently, but now it spoke in a series of mental impressions, communicating not in words, but in concepts: history, consequence, duty, evolution. I understood it perfectly. At the bottom of the spiral, I arrived in a chamber unlike any I had imagined. It was circular, infinite in scale, with a floor that seemed to be made of light itself. In the center floated a smaller sphere, perfectly transparent, yet within it danced galaxies, supernovas, and civilizations reduced to patterns of pure energy. The room hummed, not mechanically, but as though the universe itself had been concentrated into this one space. A presence entered my mind directly, a consciousness both alien and familiar. It spoke with authority and patience, carrying the weight of countless millennia. "You have come far, inheritor. Few have stepped beyond the threshold. Fewer still understand what it means to hold this knowledge." I swallowed hard, trying to maintain composure. What is this? Why me?" "You have the curiosity, the courage, the willingness to face uncertainty. The universe tests those who would touch its essence. Many fail. You have succeeded. Thus far." The sphere rotated slightly, and a part of it opened like a flower, revealing a single, perfect crystal of pure energy at its core. I could feel it calling to me, not just with light, but with possibility. In my mind, I saw echoes of what I could do with this knowledge: heal worlds, redirect dying stars, influence civilizations, and prevent atrocities yet to occur. But I also saw the danger: corruption, destruction, arrogance. Power without understanding could annihilate more than it could save. The shadow moved closer, its shape morphing into a humanoid form, suggesting a hand. I understood it to mean I must decide, not casually, not with fear, but with the full weight of what was to come. The crystal pulsed, and the chamber itself seemed to breathe. I reached out. The instant my fingers touched the surface, the room exploded in light. Images, memories, and sensations poured into me. I understood stars in a way no human could, civilizations simultaneously as they rose and fell, the mathematics of creation itself flowing through my mind. The shadow guided me, helping me anchor my consciousness, filtering the overload, and allowing me to focus on the essence of what the ship preserved. Time fractured. Seconds stretched into centuries, and centuries collapsed into a heartbeat. I saw entire fleets rising, empires collapsing, and planets forming as easily as dust gathering in a sunbeam. And through all of it, the ship remained. A sentinel, a library, a living archive waiting for the one capable of shouldering its legacy. Then, the sphere's pulse slowed. The golden light faded into a soft glow, and the chamber settled. I was standing where I had begun, but I was not the same. Knowledge flowed through me, an awareness of scales and timelines no human had ever touched. I could feel the pulse of the universe, the subtle currents of history, and the raw potential of life itself. And then I realized the ship was not finished with me. It had more to reveal, more to teach, more to test. I had stepped beyond the auction, beyond neglect, beyond the mundane reality of ordinary existence. I was inside a vessel that held the galaxy's secrets, and it had chosen me as its inheritor. A new pathway of light opened, far deeper than the last, winding into darkness, yet pulsing with hints of something extraordinary. I could feel the ship anticipating my next step, waiting for me to embrace the unknown. And as I moved toward it, a quiet thrill coursed through me. Because I was not just exploring a ship anymore, I was beginning to uncover the universe itself.
The light before me pulsed like a heartbeat, drawing me into the unknown, and I realized with a mix of awe and fear that this was no longer a vessel to be owned. It was a living archive of existence itself, and I had been chosen to steward its legacy. Every step forward carried weight. Every breath I took seemed to resonate with the rhythm of the galaxy. The ship, aware of my presence, guided me with subtle shifts in gravity and illumination, aligning my path with purpose I could not yet fully comprehend. As I descended further, the pathways unfolded like threads of pure energy, each corridor reflecting moments of history the universe had long forgotten. I could feel civilizations breathing through the walls, their triumphs and failures etched into the lattice of space and time. It was overwhelming, yet invigorating. A rush of clarity swept through me. I was no longer merely a human in an abandoned cruiser. I was a witness, a participant, and now a guardian. The ship had awakened me not to conquer, but to understand, to carry the consciousness of worlds and the memories of civilizations forward. The crystal, at the center of the final chamber, radiated knowledge in waves that I could feel, not just think. It spoke to me in patterns of light and resonance, revealing the interconnectivity of all life, the delicate balance between creation and destruction. I saw the fragility of empires, the hubris of rulers, and the quiet resilience of species thought lost. And yet, I also glimpsed the potential of humanity, not as conquerors, but as architects of harmony, capable of weaving the threads of existence into something enduring and profound. Suddenly, the shadow that had guided me materialized fully, its form now luminous, humanoid, and impossibly elegant. It extended a hand, and I instantaneously reached for it. At that moment, I understood that the ship had been waiting for someone like me, someone capable of empathy and curiosity, someone who could hold the weight of infinite knowledge without being consumed. My hand met its light, and a surge of energy coursed through me, filling every fiber of my being with understanding and resolve. The pulse of the universe thrummed in unison with my own heartbeat. Images of my past flashed briefly, reminding me that I was human. Fear, doubt, and hesitation had been mine, but they no longer held dominion over me. I felt a connection to every star I had ever seen, every whisper of life in the darkness, every story that had been left behind in the vast void. The ship did not just preserve, it amplified. It elevated understanding, sharpened intention, and revealed the infinite beauty of the cosmos. Humanity was no longer insignificant, it was integral. The crystal began to rotate slowly, and with each revolution, I felt visions of the future unfurling before me. Choices multiplied like constellations, each decision branching into countless possibilities. I realized that the true test was not knowledge itself, but wisdom. knowing which paths to follow, which to leave untouched, and how to act when the weight of countless lives rested on a single choice. The ship had given me power, yes, but it had also given me responsibility, and the enormity of it made my pulse quicken. I stepped closer to the sphere, feeling the gravity of purpose anchoring me. The universe did not offer guidance in words. It offered understanding in experience. I sensed the whisper of worlds, the murmur of galaxies, and the echo of time itself. My mind expanded, absorbing history and possibility simultaneously. And in that moment, I understood something profound. Humanity's role was not to dominate, but to protect, to learn, and to carry forward the legacy of countless species that had risen and fallen before us. The chamber seemed to vibrate in approval. The shadow guided me to the edges, revealing windows, portals to countless worlds, each one alive with potential. I could see human colonies yet to be born, alien civilizations yet to awaken, and threads of reality weaving together in intricate patterns. The ship's light reflected off every surface, bathing me in a glow that was not just illumination, but revelation. I felt connected to everything, yet distinctly myself, ready to step into a future I had never imagined. Then the ship pulsed once more, sending a wave of energy that stretched across its entirety. My vision expanded to encompass the full scale of the vessel, revealing compartments, chambers, and corridors that contained knowledge and life far beyond comprehension. I realized that the auction, the empty warehouse, the quiet drift of this forgotten cruiser, it had all been orchestrated to prepare me for this moment. The galaxy was vast, unpredictable, and dangerous, but within this ship I had the wisdom, the tools, and the perspective to face whatever came next. And as I took a final step into the golden light, the crystal's resonance filled me completely. The shadow merged with the sphere, becoming a conduit of guidance, and I felt my consciousness stretch across the cosmos. I was not just aboard a ship, I was aboard the legacy of the universe itself. Every heartbeat, every pulse of light, every whisper of energy was now part of me. I understood that the journey was only beginning, that the choices I would make could alter the fate of worlds, and that humanity had finally been entrusted with its place among the stars. The ship exhaled a soundless sigh that resonated through every molecule of my being, and I knew with absolute certainty that I had stepped into destiny. The forgotten cruiser had awakened, not just to reveal its secrets, but to forge a new chapter for its inheritor. I was no longer simply a collector of ships, a wanderer, or a curious human. I was the keeper of galaxies, the witness to the infinite, and the guardian of a legacy that would echo across time itself. And as the first pulse of the next journey began to hum through the ship, I smiled, knowing that the universe had chosen well. I was ready.